I'm 79 years old. Last week, my daughter called and said, "Mom, we need to talk about your living situation." I knew exactly what she meant. She hadn't said it directly before, but it had been there for months. In the way she asked questions, in the way she looked at me when I got tired, in the way she paused before leaving my house. Assisted living, a facility, somewhere I would be safe. I'm Elizabeth Jane, and today I want to share with you what I've learned about getting older and needing help. Because the options everyone talks about, living with family, hiring caregivers, moving into a facility, they are not the only options. And sometimes they're not even the right ones. If you're younger, you might be thinking about this for your parents. If you're my age, you're probably thinking about it for yourself. Either way, I've lived through most of it, and I want to tell you what actually worked and what quietly took something away from me. After my husband passed, I lived alone for the first time in my life. 46 years with someone, then suddenly just me. Before we go further, if this feels familiar, like the video now, because you're not the only one who's felt this. At first, it felt manageable. I could cook, clean, take care of my home, keep my routine. The house was quiet, but I told myself I preferred it that way. And this is where most people don't notice the shift. It doesn't happen all at once. It starts small. I would get winded walking up the stairs. My hands would shake opening jars. I would walk into a room and forget why I was there. Nothing dramatic, easy to ignore. But then one morning, I slipped getting out of the shower. I caught myself. I didn't fall, but it scared me more than I expected. That night, lying in bed, one thought kept repeating. What happens next time? What if I fall and no one finds me? And that's when everything changes. Not your ability, but your sense of safety. So I called my daughter and asked if I could stay with her for a while, just until I felt steadier. She said yes immediately, said I should have asked sooner. The first week felt warm. Family dinners, conversations, a sense that I mattered again, and for a moment it felt like the right decision. But that feeling didn't last. By the second week, I was alone most of the day, just like before, but this time it wasn't my space. And that difference is bigger than it sounds. Small things started to happen. Mom, maybe less salt. Mom, can you turn the TV down? They weren't being unkind. They were just living their lives. But here's the truth people don't say. When you live in someone else's home, you slowly adjust to them, even when it used to be your life. One evening, I overheard my daughter talking on the phone. She said, "It's exhausting." She didn't mean for me to hear it, but I did. And in that moment, I understood something I hadn't before. Being surrounded by people doesn't mean you feel seen. Sometimes it makes you feel invisible. After 3 months, I told her I was going home. She worried I wouldn't be safe, but I knew I needed my own space. I needed to stop feeling like a burden. And that's when the second phase began. Back home, I felt relief. But I also felt the weight of everything I could no longer do as easily. The stairs felt heavier. Cooking drained me. I dropped things more often. One afternoon, trying to change a light bulb, My hands started shaking so badly I had to stop. I stood there in my kitchen, holding that bulb, thinking, this is how it happens. This is how you slowly lose control over your own life. And that realization pushes you to the next option, getting help. I hired someone to come a few times a week. At first, it helped. The house was cleaner, meals were prepared, things felt lighter. But here's where it changes. It stopped feeling like my home. Things were moved. My kitchen was reorganized. I started adjusting to someone else in my own space. And that's a quiet kind of loss. Then came the bills. $3,000 a month for part-time help. My income covered a fraction of that. The rest came from savings, and I watched it disappear month after month. If you made it this far, subscribe now, because the next video might help you understand something that usually takes a lifetime to see clearly. And here's what made it harder. The people kept changing. One left, another came, then another. Every time I had to explain everything again. Where things were, what I needed, how I lived. It was exhausting. And I realized something important. I wasn't just paying with money, I was paying with energy, and I was running out of both. So I stopped, and that's when my daughter found a facility, clean, organized, medical staff, everything people say you need. She asked me to try it for a month. I agreed, mostly because I didn't know what else to do. The day I moved in felt strange, like a hotel. I wasn't leaving. The first few days were fine. People were kind. I met others. We played cards, shared meals. But then something shifted. The routine. Wake up at a certain time, eat at a certain time, sleep at a certain time. And then it happened. Someone knocked on my door and said, "It's time to sleep." I'm 79 years old. I've lived my entire life making my own decisions. And now someone was telling me when to go to bed. That moment stayed with me. Then one evening, I wanted to go outside. The air was cool. The sky was clear. I walked toward the door, and a staff member stopped me. Outdoor time is over. Policy. That word followed me everywhere. Policy, schedule, rules. And this is the part people don't tell you. Safety can feel like a cage. The hardest part wasn't the rules. It was the feeling that I had lost control over my own life. I could still walk, still think, still care for myself, but I was living as if I couldn't. After 3 weeks, I left. I told my daughter I couldn't stay. I would rather struggle at home than feel comfortable without freedom. And when I walked out, the air felt different, lighter. I felt like myself again. But I still had the same problem. I still needed help. And for a few days, I didn't know what to do. I sat by my window, watching the neighborhood, trying to figure it out. And this is where everything changed. One afternoon, I was walking to the small store nearby when I saw my neighbor, Sarah. She looked overwhelmed, talking on her phone, trying to balance everything. I knew her situation. Single mother, full-time job, a young daughter. And without thinking too much, I said, "If you ever need someone to pick up your daughter from school, I can do it." She hesitated, then said yes. The next day, I walked her daughter home. She talked the entire way about school, about her friends, and something shifted inside me. I wasn't being taken care of. I was contributing again. And here's the truth that changed everything. You don't need to be taken care of to feel safe. You need to feel useful. That's the difference. Over time, it became a routine. I helped her, and she helped me. Meals, small repairs, things I couldn't do alone. Not because I paid her, but because we needed each other. And here's the part most people miss. Money buys services. It doesn't buy connection. I spent thousands trying to solve the problem, and it never worked. But the moment I felt useful again, everything changed. I felt lighter, more present, more alive. If this video resonates with you, like the video now and subscribe, because most people ignore these truths until they start feeling the consequences. Now, I'm not saying this is the only solution. Your situation may be different. But here's what I learned. You don't have to choose between total independence and total dependence. There is a space in between. A space where you can accept help without losing yourself, where you can give without exhausting yourself, where you can still matter. And that is what most people are really afraid of losing. Not their strength, not their home, their sense of value. So now, ask yourself one question. Are you trying to be taken care of, or are you still finding ways to matter? Because that answer will shape everything that comes next. I'm Elizabeth Jane, and I'll see you in the next video.